Hello guys, today we'll talk about the box office again, and there is weekly domestic start for December 17th, 2021. The number one movie of the week is Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh yeah, it is. It won basically by a massive landslide. We don't know how the ratings of this movie will be, but considering it's already nearly $600 million worldwide within a weekend, it will most likely make $1 billion very, very soon. It is outpacing pre-pandemic Marvel movies, so we can compare it to Endgame here and Infinity War. What was Infinity War? Or Avengers Infinity War as well, and Star Wars here. And Star Wars had better legs than here, but Star Wars had better legs than Spider-Man did. And here, no, is having Star Wars is having better legs already than Spider-Man has, despite having a higher opening domestically, and might have better legs than Infinity War. And Infinity War ended up over $673 million at the box office. Yeah, I think Spider-Man No Way Home will definitely end up over $600 million plus. Well, domestically, will it beat movies? Will it beat Infinity War? Will it not? Is the big question. I don't think it will beat Endgame. I don't think it probably will. Here, but that's the comparison with Spider-Man. We already talked about Spider-Man to death about its growth, so we don't really need. I don't want to beat that horse basically, but it's basically doing really. It is the first movie that made money from the start of its box office one. Next is Tanto, which again nobody really cares about this movie. It is finally performing a bit better internationally, but it needs to make around $240 to $250 million to make back its money, and it's nowhere near that currently. So the only hope is that this movie performs better internationally than it has been. The ratings are actually okay on this movie, but other than that, this movie isn't really. It's doing abysmally for a Disney movie, and it isn't really doing too well. And Spider-Man No Way Home, yeah, the movie's doing well internationally, but not a Tanto. No one is basically watching this movie. Basically, next is West Side Story, or no, not Ghostbusters. There's West Side Story, which again is a financial failure by Disney. It is not going to become the next greatest showman. It might wig out because of Christmas and hit like $30 million domestically and $30 million internationally, but it carries $100 million budget, which I don't know why would anyone spend $100 million on a musical. And when I see it, it's just why. Okay, this is another example of a movie that why are we spending so much money on this movie? Why does that be so expensive to make this movie? It's sort of been a $20 to $30 million budget movie for Fox and Disney, but nope, it has to be $100 million budget for some weird and insane reason. I guess probably because it's probably most of the money so we can get the rights to the property, but come on, guys. Okay, Halloween only takes $20 million to make, but Amanda Musical takes $100 million to make. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But there isn't many major CGI effects in this movie either. So, if we compare it to, it's sort of been like a comparable budget to like Joker or Halloween. Because Joker would cost $50 million to make, and this cost $100 million to make. Yeah. I think this movie is a flop because Disney spent too much money on it. Even if it was a small budget movie, it still is considered a flop. Next is Ghostbusters, which again internationally is not really doing too well. Will it beat 2016 worldwide? Wide? Wide? We really don't know because again, it probably will catch up to 2016. It is probably gonna catch up to 2016 with Christmas, the Christmas/holiday season, because it did during Thanksgiving, and it probably will end up with $140 million domestically. But again, internationally, this movie's doing abysmally, which I just don't understand why it's doing abysmally internationally. It doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, 56 million. I don't know why it's doing this poorly internationally. Is Ghostbusters really just only an American thing? Because it's going to be pretty bad if they make a sequel to this, and it does even worse than Ghostbusters Afterlife. Again, it probably will do bad because there's no pandemic, but yeah. Next is Nightmare Alley, which again, no one watched it. It's again a non-franchise movie, bombing at the box office. Not too surprised, and then they had the goal to launch this against Spider-Man: No Way Home. I'm not too surprised this movie flopped. The thing is, no surprise to anyone that this movie flopped. Again, it doesn't really have any name recognition, and it is competing with Spider-Man. So you have both of those ingredients, and that's the perfect ingredient storm for a box office failure. Basically. Next is House of Gucci again. You know, this movie is doing really well for a non-franchise movie, but it has but this movie's budget is too big for a movie of its type. Probably just to pay the actors to be in the movie. That's probably where most of the budget came from. But this movie costs, for some reason, $30 million. Even though movies like Joker only cost $50 million and Halloween Kills costed $20 million to make. But for some reason, this movie costed $50 million to make. Again, I think that out of all things, I would try to make a movie as cheap as possible to make. But again, I think movie directors say, oh, I'm going to spend this much money on a movie because it's cool. Because they want to outspend each other on, projects that no one's going to watch, like West Side Story, okay? That could have been a small $30 to $40 million budget movie. Next is The Eternals, which will pass the $4 million mark, which means, yes, The Eternals will most likely not be a box office failure. Yeah. Will likely not be a box office failure. The movie is still one of the worst selling Marvel movies, but it is doing slightly better than Black Widow because it did better internationally than Black Widow did, which is the only reason why The Eternals made more money than Black Widow, because it did worse domestically. And it performed like Black Widow at the box office. So, yeah. And it likely will end up around $167 million domestic, $166 million domestically, which is only reason why it's doing better than Black Widow is because of international numbers. Which the international box office wasn't as great when Black Widow came out. So, and also Black Widow had a day-to-day streaming, which also hurt its numbers. So there's no conspiracy theory like the Phantom Menace push. It is because it released on Disney Plus is why it underperformed at the box office, ratings-wise. So, yeah. And yeah, that's basically about this week. Again, of course, I could talk about movies like Clifford the Big Red Dog, which flopped, and Resident Evil. I'll talk about both of those movies. Yeah, Resident Evil was a flop. Not too surprising. Clifford. Again, this movie is finally gaining international sales, but it's not really making any money internationally because of Spider-Man. So, that's basically it about this video. Goodbye.